Hello students, today's topic is on coping strategies for stress and conflict. In our last topics we have discussed about the stress and its types and the effect of stress, and also we have discussed about conflict and its types and the effect of intra-individual conflict. Now the last topic of this unit is coping strategies for stress and conflict. Now we're going to discuss that one in today's lecture. First point here is what? There are several topics that are important for minimizing stress and conflict. Example, discussion of job design, target setting, adjustment of organizational behavior, group dynamics, strategic strategies, leadership styles, organizational and design processes, communication methods, change management, and organizational growth methods. Actually, these are topics through which we can able to reduce the stress and conflict. And other than this also there are certain strategies also we can use. We're going to discuss in our coming slide, but I just want to give you a small brief about these topics. For example, discussion about of job design means whenever an individual is going to work with any other company, certain job designs are there for them. So if someone is not going to have comfortable with that job design, then they can able to discuss with their senior level management. That is one point. That's target setting. It means that whenever we will in an organization, we all have certain targets to achieve, and sometimes during the achievement of that target, many of us have feel some kind of tension and stress, and maybe if they're not going to able to achieve that one effectively, some conflicts also will be there with their boss or with their colleagues or the co-workers. That is also one of the reason that can be able to if it is going to manage effectively, then stress is going to reduce, conflict is going to reduce. Adjustment of organizational behavior, that is also the important thing. We all know about the organizational behavior, a way through which an individual is working in the organization. That is also the consideration for the organizational people to reduce particular stress and conflict. Then group dynamics is also the important thing. Whenever you will be working with the team, then every team have certain kind of dynamics, statistics, and strategies that they should have to be understand and effectively has to manage it to reduce certain conflict with them or some kind of stresses. Then strategic strategies means some strategies that we have to be follow, let down for long-term goals. Then leadership style, that is the most important thing. If the leadership style is not much autocratic one, then it's possible for the organization to have managed that conflict and stress. Even in the autocratic style of leadership, there are many kind of you can say solutions and strategies are there through which the organization can work out to reduce the stress and conflict. Then organizational and design processes, then communication methods, then change management is also one of the very effective tools through which the organization can able to reduce the stress and conflict. And other organizational growth methods are also there. Then the second point also is based on the same thing. There are also overall theories on coping with the stress, empirical studies on the role that personality and confidence can play in coping with stress and conflict in organization, and realistic guidance for transforming stress into success. So I already told you in that topic in conflict and stress that stress is not always be negative. If he is going to manage effectively, then it's become positive also and impacted positively on the organization, right? So to reduce that stress and conflict, the organization also is trying to improve or trying to concentrate on the individual personalities and what kind of confidence they have to cope up with the stress and conflict that also can be manageable. So these are different types of things through which you can able to reduce the stress and conflict in the organization. Then our next topic about this conflict resolution is individual coping strategies. Individual as a person, what kind of different activities you can able to manage through which you can able to reduce the stress or conflict in an organization. Today's self-help remedies, do-it-yourself approaches, weight loss clinics and diets, health foods, physical exercise are being given much attention in the mass media for reducing this individual stress and conflicts. One of the, you can say, the point here is exercise. Through exercise, the individual can able to reduce the stress, and they can change their particular mood if it is not up to the mark or somewhat different negative side. Then relaxation is there through different kinds of specific relaxation techniques like yoga and any other things. The individual can able to relax. Then behavioral self-control is also the one of the important point here. It's important to give specific attention to behavior management by deliberately managing the antecedents and the consequences of their own behavior. People can achieve self-control. For example, sales manager who have steady stream of consumer complaints all day could change the antecedents by having an assistant screen all complaints and allow only exceptions to reach them. So it's a small example has given in this point to how to reduce the stress in a particular organizational and so, according to this point, behavioral self control, an individual can deliberately manage the consequences of their own behavior. Antecedents means before going to react with for any of the activity or any of the situation, you have to think it that whether it's applicable or whether it's fruitful or whether it's viable in this particular situation or not, right? So it's an overall point about how to control your own behavior so that the consequences may not impacted you upon in the form of any kind of stress, right? Then cognitive therapy, it's a relatively short-term form of psychotherapy based on the concept that the way we think about things affect how we feel emotionally. The goal in this type of therapy is to gain or enhance one's sense of efficacy over stressful situations as an individual coping strategies for stress reduction through successful performance experiences, vicarious experiences, social persuasion, or controlling physiological and emotional state. So here, what exactly that point is want to state that through cognitive therapy, we can able to reduce our stress by creating and kind of emotional kind of why a person can have un stress because that person is emotionally engaged with one of the thinking process with himself or herself only that whatever situation is going to come, I'm not able to cope up with that situation. So why it is there? Because but that individual have not that much of confidence in him or her that I can able to face that situation, and then the stress will come. So by increasing the confidence in a personality, that individual can have the ability to reduce the stress successfully, right? That is the here through successful performance of experience. So whenever you're going to have achieved something, whenever you have to, whenever you are going to have did something or you have to achieve something, and in that condition you have to be you can say praise us. If someone is not going to praise us, then we have to himself or herself praise us that yes, we have it and we can able to do the such thing in the future also. So that kind of, if the strategy we're going to be have follow, then definitely then the stress is going to be reduced, right? Then networking, that is also one of the very can say effective kind of technique through which you can able to reduce your stress. That is one clear finding that has come out of the social psychology research over the years is that people need and will benefit from social support applied as a strategy to reduce job stress. This would entail forming close association with trusted empathetic co-workers, colleagues who are good listeners and confidence builders. These friends are when needed and provide support to get the person through stressful situations. So that is also the one of the effective strategy to reduce the stress, because whenever in an organization, if you are not able to achieve something or if you have failed in some kind of situation or in target achievement, anything of situation, awkward situations are there. In that condition, if you have going to share your feeling with any of your co-workers, and that is too empathetic. Empathetic means they're going to have some kind of empathy with you. In that condition, you will going to have feel certain can say relaxation by praising words of them towards you. And the most important thing, that if that person is a good listener, then definitely that going to be have provided you the confidence also, that is act like a confidence builder for you. And if it is there, then definitely you're going to have reduce a lot of stress in your organization. Okay, now the next topic about the organizational coping strategies. Just now we have discussed about the individual coping strategies. Now this is the organizational coping strategy, in which first one is organizational coping strategy are designed by management to eliminate or control organizational level stressors in order to prevent or reduce job stress for individual employees. So what happens in this kind of strategies, the organization are working upon the organizational level stressors, and means that what kind of factors they are in the organization, those are basically responsible for creating the stresses. So they are trying to control that factors. Like here in this picture, they have mentioned what are different kinds of stressors are there in the administrative policies, organizational structure and design, organizational processes, and working conditions like crowded work area, noise, heat or cold, polluted air, strong odor, unsafe, dangerous conditions, poor lighting. So these are factors. It's called the job stresses that basically enhance the individual's stress in an organizational environment. Then the organizational stresses were categorized in terms of overall policies and strategies. They are categorizing it. Structure and design processes, functions, working conditions. See this figure. A major challenge facing the management of conflict at this organizational level is to answer questions such as how do you ensure that relevant information gets transferred between two parts of an organization that have different cultures. Normally, this is the point related to conflict. So normally the conflict arises in the organization when the two organizational groups have different kinds of cultures. So that information that you are transferring from one to another organization, that should have to manage effectively, right? So whatever the intention and intended message is there, it should be communicated very effectively. Otherwise, what happens? Conflict will arise. Now the second question is what? How do you encourage people from units competing for scarce corporate resources to work together? Now here another important point is basically what happened in the organization, the resources are normally very scarce. So different units in an organization, when they're competing for the same resources and that too is scarcity, then definitely the conflict is going to rise. So how we are going to have answered this kinds of question, that basically impacted upon how to manage the organizational conflict, right? So then next one, it logically follows that each of these areas would be the focus of attention in developing organizational coping strategies. In other words, each of the specific stressors should be worked on in order to eliminate or reduce job stress. For example, in the policy area, attention would be given to making performance reviews and pay plans as equitable and as fair as possible. So as you have seen in the last slide, that diagram is there, that is the job stresses points are there. So the individual organization that have to work upon it to reduce the stress. One example is given here, that whenever the policy is going to be have made for the performance reviews and pay plans, it should be equitable and as fair as possible. If it is not fair, if you are going to have favor someone, then what happen if that particular organizational managers or anyone have some other kind of favorism is there, right? So in that case, that the people who are working hard, then the stress and conflict will going to arise, right? Then in the structural area, steps would be taken to back away from high degree of formalization and specialization. The same would be done in the areas of physical conditions. For example, safety hazards would be removed, and lighting, noise, and temperature would be improved, and process functions, for example, communication and information sharing, would be improved, and ambiguous or conflicting goals would be clarified or resolved. So, in this point, from that our job stresses, we can work on that points, and these are all solutions that through which we can have able to reduce the stress. Like for example, stress and conflict. Like for example, safety hazards would have to remove from the organizational environment. Lighting, noise, and temperature should be improved, and in the processes and functions, we can able to improve the communications and information sharing would be improved, and the ambiguous or conflicting goals would be clarified and resolved. So goals in that kind of process and functions, the important thing that organization should have to clarify the goals effectively among the employees. Ambiguous means when something is not clear to any of the employee, then we should have to clear it, right? So that is the thing, that is the points that you all have to address effectively in an organization to reduce the stresses and conflicts. Then, with the increased globalization, the coping strategies to manage the stress of expatriates has received increased attention. For example, one study found that the effectiveness of problem-focused coping strategies of expatriate adjustment is moderate by cultural distance and position level, but not by time on the assignment. So this particular point is basically for people, for the organization, those are normally working on the global level. And I think most of the organization nowadays have globalized, and that is the point there that is they should have to be addressed. That is the effective effectiveness in the work of the expatriates. It only will come that stress is only be going to be reduced when that kind of people have a moderate cultural distance. They know about it and the position level, but not by time on the assignment. So whenever they're going to join of any of the other country where the cultural distance is there, where the different kinds of people are around them with whom they have to work, then in that conditions, the organization should have to be concentrate effectively, and they have to train them so that they can able to cope up with that kind of conditions, and that reduce and conflict is going to reduce. Right. Expatriate, I already mentioned here that a person who lives outside their native country, for example, American expatriates in London. So these are the all points through which the individual can able to reduce the particular stress and conflict. Other than this, also certain points are there. I will going to give it to you in the form of notes. We will just go through it. If any kind of doubt is there, please let me know on my personal window of WhatsApp. Okay, thank you.